love it. Well, folks, I think we'll get started. We still have people joining, and I'm on double duty today. We have some amazing folks working with us at 100 Row Women, and Delaney, our graduate student who usually takes care of these, is up visiting a medical school today. So I'm going to be running the Zoom and facilitating. And my name is Teresa Kittredge, and I'm the founder of 100 Row Women. And for folks who don't know us, 100 Row Women really came together to figure out how we can better support each other as rural women. And we're all about creating connections and inspiring leadership. We are an emerging nonprofit. And one of the things I wanted to do when we started this organization was to do 100 meetings across the state to really find out what are the barriers to leadership for women. What can we do to better support each other? What are networks out there, or what are networks you wish you had in your community? So we got through our first 50 meetings, and we took what we learned in those meetings and just really applied it to the next 50, which we're just going to be wrapping up. But one of the biggest outcomes was mentorship, all different types of mentorship. How can we be better mentors to each other? And people really wanted to hear what leadership stories were at all different types of leadership, at all age, at all different stages of career. So that's what we've been doing with Ask a Leading Woman. So I'm just happy everybody's here today. I really want to welcome you. This will be a 45-minute segment. We really want to give Jessica 20 minutes to really talk and share her leadership story. And then we'll take about 20 minutes for Q&A. And so I just wanted to let you know that's sort of our frame for the day, for this morning. And I'm going to introduce Jessie. I'm going to let her introduce herself, actually, but I have to do a little bit of an introduction with Jessica. That I've known Jess since she was in her early 20s. So I've known her for a long time, and I've been able to observe and be part of her her journey, and am really happy to have been part of that and to watch her grow and blossom and just do some amazing things. So Jessie, I am just going to turn it over to you to tell us about yourself and share your journey.
Sure. Well, thank you, Teresa. Good morning, everybody. I'm just thrilled to be with all of you this morning and to be able to take part in this wonderful series that's hosted by 100 Row Women. I'm a huge fan of the work that this emerging nonprofit is doing, and just the important work that Teresa and her team are achieving to just really connect people across the state as well as beyond. And through some important conversations and just to have mentorship opportunities and abilities. So thank you again for having me today and for participating in this morning's session. I'm going to share my leadership journey, and it's great to see so many familiar names and faces. And I feel as I was preparing for this, there's so many people who are, as Teresa said, it's great to hear from people from all aspects of their career. And as she's working on this series, I'm kind of at the midpoint in my career, but it's great to learn from each other. And so I want to make sure this is participatory. So after I share my story and some of my insights, I look forward to questions, discussion, and maybe some things that you have to share as well. That's what it's all about, is learning from each other. So with that, I'll just begin. So I'm Jessica Beyer. I'm the president and CEO of Greater Mankato Growth, Inc., for those of you that don't know me on the call. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about my role here at Greater Mankato Growth, Inc., and then, like I mentioned, talk about the journey of my path and sharing some reflections, along the way. And, I'll just be honest with you, going through this exercise was really powerful in itself. As I was preparing, sometimes we don't always take the opportunity to kind of stop and think about, I know right now time for many of us is challenging. And so just really to take that moment and to reflect upon kind of where we've been and, both in our career and our life, and kind of as I'm hitting this midpoint, we all have our unique stories and paths, and no matter what titles or what we've done along the way in both our personal and professional lives. I just encourage you to take a moment to think about your journey and really reflect upon, if you haven't done this already. So it was kind of terrifying to kind of put things together, but also really great exercise just to think about where I've been. And as I did that, I immediately felt a sense of gratitude. Our paths are rarely easy and they take twists and turns. They're not in a straight line, but all of it, we have these best laid plans, but then sometimes there's things that along the way, there's a purpose for that. And so I just know in my journey, I've always been a planner. And so you think things are going to be one way and they turn out in a different way, and that's okay too. And so I just had this gratefulness of really where I've been and reflecting on the people and the relationships along that path. So back to today, as I mentioned, I serve in a leadership role here at Greater Mankato Growth, and I've been in this position for about 2.5 years now. Time flies, and especially when you're in the midst of a pandemic and coming off of that. So it's been a challenging few years, but it's been great. Our organization's mission really is to support and promote economic growth and vitality of not only our members, but of the regional marketplace. And so we carry out this work just to kind of give you a little bit of background if you're not familiar with Greater Mankato Growth, but we have 4 different business units. So we have Greater Mankato Growth, which serves as the Regional Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Organization. Then we have Visit Mankato, which is focused on traditional convention and visitors bureau work, but really all about the destination in this region and the visitor economy, leisure economy, those type of things. We have City Center Partnership, and so that it's keeping that downtown development strong for Mankato, North Mankato, which again supports the region and having a thriving and vibrant downtown area where people can come for concerts, business development, those type of things. And then we also have Green Scene, which is focused on the agricultural assets of this region. And that region goes beyond, really southern Minnesota, northern Iowa. And so really those are kind of the areas we touch, in addition to our chamber work and our role. We do, one thing that's unique about us is we are a partner in the Regional Economic Development Alliance. And so that is Blue Earth County, Nicollet County, Mankato, North Mankato, St. Peter, Eagle Lake. And with the county support, it's really that whole MSA for our region and how we work with private public partnerships to promote our region and strengthen our economy here. So that kind of tells you a little bit about, what we do at Greater Mankato Growth. There's a lot of different programming. We have a small but mighty team, and we focus really on that business development, talent growth, attention and attraction, really regional livability, and also public affairs and advocacy. So we put together a lot of different programming, events, convening conversations, as well as, really serving members, stakeholders, and everyone in this region. So it's a really robust but fun role. So that's kind of where I am today. And really at this time, I'd like to kind of transition about talking about my journey and how it brought me to this place, and kind of give you that background. But a few themes as I talk about my journey, some of the things that you'll hear and I'll touch on in more in depth, things I was going through this exercise, as I mentioned, is just, it doesn't take a title to be a leader. You can be a leader in whatever you're doing. And I found that very relevant throughout many aspects of my journey. Also being open to opportunities, sometimes outside the realm of your plan. And so sometimes we have the best laid plans, but really being open. And sometimes that's harder. I don't like change, but if I reflect upon my journey, sometimes change comes to you, and it's not necessarily a bad thing or that you can't build upon the relationships and the work that you've done. Sometimes it's within your own organization, and sometimes it means leaving that organization, as painful as it may be. Allowing yourself to be pushed into listening to others, trust the unknown and being vulnerable. I think those are things that resonated with me. And just as I reflected, sometimes you don't have all the answers, and that's okay to admit that you're wrong and set a new course. And then using your own authentic style. Every leader is different, and we all have leadership within us, and we all use different styles to build the culture, to build a team, to carry out the work. And I think just helping others, and for me, relationships has been key. So with that, I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about my journey, and then we can open up for questions. But, I was born in Iowa City, Iowa. And so I know this is a Minnesota 100 Rural Women group, but originally an Iowegian. And I grew up outside of a small town, 7 miles outside of a very small town in Iowa, agricultural community. And, my story began from the beginning. I was a preemie. My mom had a lot of health issues. And so I really wasn't supposed to make it. So I kind of came into this world fighting, and grew up in this small northeastern Iowa town, surrounded by family and many other communities. Really had a great early childhood experience, loving the outdoors, having the pet cow and bunnies and goats, and a small knit neighborhood in this rural area, and asparagus hunting. We had coon dogs, and we did a lot of hunting and trapping and just a lot of outdoor things. But really had a great educational opportunities in Iowa, and a really good network. And so I think when you talk about, especially the presence of this rural women, and no matter where you grew up, rural America holds a special place in my heart, just from some of the opportunities I was given in early education and formative years of my life. Fast forward, my dad had a job opportunity. And so he moved first to the Janesville area, and then we ended up moving to the Mankato area. And so we lived in town in Mankato, and that was a huge transition for me, coming from rural Iowa. Every family member I'd ever known, just, having a McDonald's and a mall and some of those things it was a big deal. And so it was definitely a transition in those middle school years. And then I really think in high school is when I hit my area where I could thrive. I got involved in activities, different organizations, clubs, student council, sports, you name it. But really, I think, everybody has those transitional moments in their life, and you build upon those. So I graduated from Mankato East, and then went to Minnesota State University, Mankato. And so the plan was to go maybe to University of Iowa, and my dream was to be a National Geographic photojournalist and travel the world. And so I majored in mass communications, and then I decided to fall back and get a double major in business, just something to fall back on, because a lot of my upbringing, my grandparents were either farmers, or they had worked for a manufacturing facility or another organization for 30 some years. And so it was really that stability and some of those kind of work ethic pieces that, okay, I need something to fall back on. I need to pay the bills. I think a lot of what I'm grounded in is really about, I like to be, that security, and especially that financial security. And so had a great experience at MSU, even though it wasn't part of the plan, and was able to take care of some family. My dad had been in an accident, and so we were able to be at home and have a great college education. And then I was able to look at opportunities beyond college, and I had done an internship at Coughlin Companies here in town. And so my major from Minnesota State University, as I said, was mass communications, but also business degree with an emphasis in human resources. And I think someone from Waseca County Human Resources is on the call today. And we go into human resources because we like people, right? But it's not always the case. There's a lot of different things that come with that. And it's great work. It's rewarding work. And so at the juncture, back then, jobs weren't what they are now. They weren't as easy to find. And so I had an opportunity to go to Mayo Clinic and pursue human resources, where the path was very known. I mean, I could start to work on my master's degree, pension, all of the different things. But then I had the opportunity to stay with Coughlin Companies, where I had interned. I had 3 different jobs during college, and really rewarding experiences. I've had a lot of support. And I think that's something I'm so grateful, because I've had so many different mentors in my life, whether they be women or men, or just coworkers or colleagues, that you really build those relationships with. And so even through high school and college at different jobs and opportunities that I had to really dive in and get a lot of different skill sets. And so at Coughlin, I did editorial internship in HR, a long-term HR internship. And so when I had that opportunity, there was two new publishing companies that were starting. And I was offered a job to be an account manager and really do national sales and marketing. And actually, that's how I met Teresa. She was the president of that company. And so she was my former boss. And we've stayed connected for, I don't know, almost close to 20 years now, Teresa. And so it was a great opportunity. So as you know, I took the road less traveled. I think sometimes we all have different paths, and it can be agonizing of which fork in the road do you take. But I think, as I mentioned earlier in some of the themes, sometimes to trust the unknown, go with your heart, and sometimes the road less traveled is okay. And to really analyze and think about that. So at Coughlin, it was known as Picture Window and Compass Point Books. It was an amazing experience to travel in the publishing industry and really help establish it's known as Capstone Press now, but really two book companies that are still thriving and doing well, and really help build that from the ground up was very rewarding. And so I was in the private sector. That's where I planned to be, but I knew I wanted to get my master's degree. I knew eventually I probably didn't want to be in a large metro area. I was living in Edina in the Twin Cities, and I loved my life and it was fantastic. And I really wasn't looking for anything different. But you have people that nudge you along the way and put opportunities before you. And so I think, as many of you probably realize throughout your journeys as well, and I think especially with women, sometimes we need to be asked to do things or it mentioned to us to do things. And so really, I can honestly say at every juncture in my life, when I've made a transition, it's because someone else maybe had the confidence in me that I didn't see, or they really instilled in me a thought, or like, oh, I could do that, or maybe I should do that, or maybe they pulled me along kicking and screaming, saying that, well, you should probably go pursue that, even if you loved it. You love what you're doing now because you'd be really good at it, or they see things in you that you don't see, like I mentioned. So I was having a great career there, and I had the opportunity. There was a position open at Blue Earth County, and I never thought I'd be in county government. Never had that on my radar. And so I interviewed for the position and got the position to be in communications at Blue Earth County. And I'll say for the first few years, it was an adjustment coming from a different world. But I grew to love and appreciate public service, and that, working for a publishing company was pretty rewarding in itself too. But I would say just that connection to helping people and being part of that system. And so I spent 11 years at Blue Earth County working in different capacities. And what I really found is I was able to not be on an airplane every week, which in your 20s is a great thing, right? It's just eventually when you want to buy a house or have a dog or maybe get married and have a family. But I really wanted to get my master's. That was one goal I had set for myself. And so I was able to move back to Mankato. It was taking a step back in my career quite a bit. But really, I learned so much through the county, developed such a passion for what I was able to do and working with all of the different departments, and really became just a huge part of me. And so I was able to get my master's degree and also develop and grow at the county. And so it was a wonderful opportunity. So I spent 11 years there and eventually was communications manager and business analyst. And I think through that work, you have your career and your professional life, but as many of you know as well, or are maybe experiencing, community service and involvement and engagement was a big part for my journey. And so whether I was able to take on part in local boards, such as the United Way or the Mankato Area Foundation, or have influence at the state level with some of the state communication boards, or even being able to be connected to, I know Mary Jo's on this call right now today too, but the National Association of Counties, and to have the opportunity to serve on boards or get involved. It's not that you even have to serve on a board, but serve on committees and be part of some of those conversations, even bigger than, just what you're doing through your organization, but having influence and impact, whether it's in your community, whether it's a state or legislative area, or, on a national scene where you're impacting policy that can impact counties or other organizations. I found that work to be really rewarding as well. And again, the people that you get connected with, and by being part of those conversations, if it's one thing I could share, is just be open to experiences as well. I think if you have that desire to learn, or like me, I'm a lifelong learner. And I know that if you're looking for those opportunities, don't get too busy in what you're doing, because there's things that like fellowships, and you don't have to leave your current position or do something drastic. You can be part of a lot of impact and change. And so there's fellowships. I know I went through a strategic communications program at Texas Christian University. And so I was blessed that I had a lot of mentors, supervisors, others who shared these opportunities with me. But sometimes you have to go out and seek those things that you're passionate about as well. And so I think, being long-winded, just be open to those experiences as well as the opportunities in your career, because there's so many ways that you can grow and develop and be a better person, a better leader, or better just in your role. So I had, throughout my time at Blue Earth County, I was given a great deal of opportunity to really, like I said, get my master's, further my education, and take part in some training and development opportunities. And, again, I had the opportunity to go to Waseca County as their administrator, and a wonderful organization, again, just like Blue Earth County. And, it was really hard. It was a hard change for me, because again, kind of like my dad or my grandpa, who had been at organizations their whole life, it wasn't my plan to leave Blue Earth County, but I had gotten my master's, and there was others saying, you should take that next step. And there was an opportunity in the region. And so I waited until the last day and finally I applied, and it was really the best decision, because I got to meet this whole new team. And I think it was just great coming to that organization and really being part of that culture and help building upon a great foundation there. We had a lot of projects and a lot of things going on, and it was a great experience. And I was there almost 3 years. And again, it was part of my plan to be there for a lot longer. And, I look at even though you're at a place for a short time, I learned so much. And I think the biggest compliment is if you're working along people and you learn from them, but also if you're able to make an impact. I love working with the department heads and just embracing where you are. And so I learned a lot from that experience, and still have great connections around this call today from there. And that's where your network just gets bigger. And as I looked at this position, this was not something that was part of my radar. Someone brought it forward to me, but with my private and public experience, it was really a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so it nearly ripped my heart out. But I think, looking at the big picture and in my leadership journey, how could I impact the region at large and still help Blue Earth County, still help Waseca County, still help the organizations that I had worked for even in college and others, by stepping up and taking on a challenge and being open to the possibilities. And so that's kind of what put me here at Greater Mankato Growth. And it was never part of the plan. I had taken part in a leadership institute back in 2006 and never thought I would actually be here leading this organization. And so it's been a great journey. I've had a lot of mentors along the way. And I think what's neat about that is I'm at a point in my career right now too, where don't forget about helping others and telling them about opportunities or having conversations with them. It's really fun for me. We have a lot of interns that work for our organization now, and just being able to take the time and have a coffee with them, it's hard to fit that in your schedule, but help, share your perspectives with them and help guide them in some of the questions and some of the things that they're grappling with as they're embarking on their career or at any point. I think it's just powerful. I went through the Humphrey Institute program, and one of the exercises is really taking the time just to develop relationships within your own community and try to have lunch or try to connect with people on different levels, because that's sometimes how some of the greatest projects or some of the greatest partnerships evolve, is because you're able to really meet on that level. And then you have those relationships down the line when we maybe are in a crisis and you need that support, or you have that relationship so you can maybe build a great program or help your community or your organization take on an initiative that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I got to Greater Mankato Growth. And it's interesting talking about yourself, because you're like, as I was putting this together, what do we have to learn from my story? I mean, Teresa has CEOs of colleges and universities or healthcare facilities, or, a wide gamut of women talking about leadership. But I think, again, as I go back to is what I talked about at the beginning, everybody has their own story and we can all learn from each other. So with that, I think I got a little long-winded, but that's kind of me in a nutshell, my journey. I'd be happy to take questions.